slavery descendants that they've lied to you. I don't even choose the name X because that still is a language that I probably didn't speak. In January of 2019, a woman by the name of Tammy Lawrence Daly, 51 years old, she was attacked by a hotel employee. She was staying at the Majestic's Elegance Punta Cana Resort in the Dominican Republic. If you've never been to the Caribbean, and I've been many times, when you go to these big all-inclusive resorts, there are two rules in play. Number one, you're not allowed to tip any of the workers because that is their entire industry. That is what the entire industry is built on. That is their job. That is what they're groomed to do, is to work in service in the resort. That is the bulk of their income. So when you go to an all-inclusive resort, you get everything included in the package. The food, the drinks, the rides, your room, everything. And you've got all of these people who live on those islands, and their job pretty much is just to cater to you. I've been there and I've seen it. So when I heard about someone dying at one of the resorts, that kind of bothered me because those places are pretty secure. You have a band on your arm. You normally can't even get in unless you stay in there. And it's a real big operation. Back in January of this year, this woman says that she was staying at this resort and that in the middle of the night, she got up to go get herself a drink. And on her way to the machine, an employee attacked her for 8 hours. He beat her, dragged her downstairs. She had to have 8 surgeries. This didn't make the news, and I'll tell you why. Because of course, she was white, because what I'm about to tell you, this is some white thing. They agreed to pay $2.2 million to her to keep it quiet. And she was probably going to do that until people started dying in the same resort, owned by the same company. As a matter of fact, there are 2 resorts here that are concerned. And so she decided to go public with this story. Now, before I go any further, you have to understand that in the Dominican Republic, the Dominican Republic National Police are very corrupt. Very corrupt. Money moves everything. And one thing you have to understand about the world is when it comes to doing the right thing as opposed to money, they'll go for money every time. So if anything happens that threatens the income, and 17% of the gross national product for the Dominican Republic comes from tourism. So they'll do anything to stop anyone from threatening that. Almost 6 million of us went down there to have a good time. Matter of fact, the Dominican Republic is the #1 destination in the Caribbean right now. And it's been that way for a while. So they don't want nobody messing that up. So paying somebody $2.2 million to keep it quiet. You got to remember all the other people that are involved in this operation. You got Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. You've got Norwegian Cruise Lines, Carnival Cruise Lines that operate out of Miami. They always running ships down that way. That's a lot of money. If you've ever been on one of these cruises, like I was just on the Independence, it's a floating hotel, 15 levels. They got water rides on the ship. They got gambling casino. They got shows. You don't want nobody to mess that up. So when this happened back in January, Miss Tammy Lawrence Daly, who's 51, she told the police that she was attacked by a hotel employee. She was staying at the Majestic's Elegance Punta Cana Resort. That story makes her the first one, but she survived. She was supposed to have died. Orlando Moore and Portia Ravenel, they were staying down there, and they were supposed to leave to go to the airport. This was March 27th. Now, I remember when this story broke in the American newspapers that a woman was missing in the Dominican Republic, but, didn't really pay it a whole lot of mind. She'll turn up. It's an island. Where can she go? Right. However, a couple of days later, the story got a little weirder. An unconscious woman who fit the description of Portia Ravenel was found on the road to the international airport in Santo Domingo on the same day. And no one knew who this woman was. She had no ID. She was unconscious. She was battered, bruised. So they took her to the hospital. She didn't have any ID. So they transported her to the intensive care unit at the Dr. Dario Contreras Hospital, and she died 8 days later on April the 4th. Now, on March 31st, the body of a man fitting the description of Orlando Moore was found at sea near Sansasuche in Doronmeja, which is off the coast of the Dominican Republic. Now listen to what I just told you. These people were checking out at the resort. They heading to the airport. They leaving. She ends up on the road. He ends up in the ocean. Now there's two sides to this story. First, somebody said they caught an Uber, but they found the Uber car in the ocean. So where the driver at? Then the story changed. No. It was a rental car, and they must have drove into the ocean. Drove into the ocean. So as I did my investigation, I got the official response from the Dominican National Police, and I'm going to call it a lie. I'm going to call it what it is. The lie was authorities believe the couple's rental car plunged into the ocean in the early hours of March 27 as they were on their way to catch a flight home. And fishermen reported a vehicle in the ocean, according to the Mejas, and divers have not been able to identify the vehicle because of rough seas. And how the hell y'all know who was in the car? Somebody covering up something. Miranda Schnapp Werner, 41 years old, of Allentown, Pennsylvania, had just checked in on May 25th, and she had a drink from the minibar, and she was staying at the Bahia Principal Hotel in La Romeo. Now, here's the catch. Watch what I'm about to tell you. She checked in on May 25th. She had a drink. She's there to celebrate her wedding anniversary with her husband. 9 years. Everything was great. She went to her room. They was taking pictures, and at some point she was sitting there smiling and taking pictures, and the next she was in acute pain, and she called out and she collapsed. She died. On the same day that she checked in, had that drink and died, there was another couple from Maryland. DMV, holla at your boy. Edward Nathaniel Holmes, who was 63, and Cynthia Ann Day, who was 49. They missed their checkout time. They checked in, but they didn't check out. And the hotel employees checked on them, and according to them, they found both of them dead in their room. Now, they both dead. Checked in on the same day that this girl who also checked in, who had the drink and died. But 5 days later, they found these two in their room in a resort that you just can't walk up into, and both of them are dead. Now, here come the lie. According to the police, after Day and Holmes died, the Dominican Republic National Police said an autopsy concluded that the couple had respiratory failure and pulmonary edema, a condition caused excessive fluid in their lungs. So they're trying to say both of them died of natural causes on the same day at the same time. I'm sorry. I was born that night, but I wasn't born last night. He was 63 and she was 49. Yet both of them died of natural causes from the same reason in their hotel rooms. That's not the story that's starting to come out right now. The story that's starting to come out right now is that they were stabbed to death and robbed, and that the U.S. government and the State Department do not want that information to get back here to the United States, because a lot of y'all already on your way to the Dominican Republic or to the Caribbean for your vacation, and they don't want nobody messing with the money. The Bahia Principal Hotel and the majestic Elegance Punta Cana are owned by the same people. They put out a statement. Here's what they had to say about it. They said, some of the news sources in the United States have reported on the story, considering her accounts are true, and that these accounts, instead of waiting for a final solution, this will affect majestic resorts, but also tourism for the entire Dominican Republic. Let me go ahead and sum it up for you. So what they're basically saying is, we got a serial killer on the loose, somebody that works here that likes to rape, rob, murder, and pillage, or maybe that's what we do down here, but we got it. Don't believe none until we tell you what happened. And so far, everything they've told has been a lie. So I passed this information on to you, and I'm going to talk about this one last time. We've had 6 U.S. tourists have died in the Dominican Republic since April. I got the facts right here. I've done my research. I've talked to the right people. Yeah, something's going on. Listen, if you got friends, the State Department ain't going to tell you. United States government right now is under control of a madman, so he's not going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you, do not go to the Dominican Republic right now unless you bout that life. Oh, and there is one other story that just broke, was it day before yesterday, where this woman went to the Dominican Republic, checked into the resort, went into her room and woke up and there was someone in her room, but she got to him before he got to her. She survived and they immediately asked her to leave the island. They're killing people in the DR right now. That's all I'm going to talk about that. We'll leave that one alone. Hopefully you learned something because you're not going to hear that on the news. Do your research yourself. I'm going to keep it moving. The next thing I want to talk about is something that for all my people in Virginia, you're really going to find this kind of interesting. Most of you all who know me know that I'm actually a native of two places. One of those places is when your mother and father back in the day split up. Mom would go one place and dad would go another. My mother moved to Richmond, Virginia. My father stayed in New York. So I would spend my summers, in one place and then my winters, in the other place. So I'm kind of the best of both worlds, north and the south. I've seen it all. But one of the things that I can definitely tell you is that growing up in the racist South and growing up in the capital of the Confederacy, growing up in the place that if they had won the Civil War would be their Washington, D.C., they just as racist as ever. You see, racism keeps changing its face, but it never goes away. It becomes institutionalized. It becomes a way of life. It kind of comes ingrained. And remember, all this talking that we're doing, they don't mind that. As long as you don't mess with their money, they good. By the way, where in the fuck are our reparations? I'm sorry, I mean to let that slide out. So I got a couple of questions about the situation that happened down in Virginia Beach. And when I dive into this, I need y'all to open your minds up because I'm just going to pose a question to you. What I'm talking about tonight is controlling the narrative. I'm talking about when you see things presented in the media, because they know the media controls the mind, how they omit certain facts, because sometimes that can backfire and send the wrong message. So first of all, let me pose a question. Why did the media hide the fact that the shooter was black? When this first broke, they put a white man's picture up there. I still got it. We like, oh, we used to that by now. White folks go all shoot everybody up. Matter of fact, I even commented on it. I said if he was black, they'd go out and arrest the whole family, everybody on the cell phone, me, you, everybody's friends, everybody. I couldn't imagine because that's not in our DNA. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But why did the media hide the fact that the shooter was black? It's two reasons, and I'm going to dig into those real quick. One of those has a lot to do with Virginia Beach because they want to keep their racist past asleep. And those of y'all who are not old enough, I'm going to tell you why. The other reason is because there are certain images you don't want projected across American TV, especially when it comes to black men. So let me talk a little bit about Dwayne Craddock. And I'm going to say it straight out. He was a 40-year-old black man. He was making $130,000 a year working for the state. He was there for 15 years. He was doing good. He was doing all right. He suddenly resigns his job, then kills his co-workers, who are all engineers, plus the admin, plus the accountant, and another guy who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he was in a secure area that was so secure that even the police couldn't get in. Now, y'all know how I do. I have a copy of the email that he sent before he started killing them. Now, I'm going to read you what's in the email. I want to officially put in my 2 weeks notice to vacate my position of Engineer 3 with the City of Virginia Beach. It has been a pleasure to serve the city, but due to personal reasons, I must relieve my position. That's what the media told you. What they didn't tell you was this was an exchange of a conversation. The conversation came back was, hey, Dwayne, I hope you're able to resolve your personal reasons. To be clear, your last day will be Friday, June the 14th, 2019. So he sent the email. They responded back. You gave your 2 weeks notice. So you gave your 2 weeks notice on the 31st. You're telling us on the 14th, you out. You're walking away from a good job. You've been here 15 years. You're an engineer and everybody around you is either senior engineers, junior engineers, all y'all work together. Matter of fact, the bruh who had been there the longest was there for 40 years. Good old boy. His response back to that other communication was, thank you. Yes, that is correct. This email is my 2 weeks notice. He did it by email. Now, we don't know what was going on in that bruh's head, but I'm a black man. And I've been around for a long time. And my question is, he resigns, kills all the co-workers, all his engineers, plus the admin, plus the accountant, and a customer in a secure area. He doesn't commit suicide like all the other guys do. He shoots it out with police for a while with legally purchased firearms that he's never had a problem before. What happened to him? This is not our normal response, black people. We are very direct about our targets. When a black person comes after you to shoot you, they're going to shoot you. White people flip out, shoot everybody around them. If you listen to the media, they try to paint it like it was a white shooting, but it wasn't. Bruh Maine worked in a place that nobody could get into, and he methodically went after every last one of the people he worked with over the years. And once you find out that he's black, we have to ask ourselves the question, as tragic as it was, what in the hell happened? Well, let's talk a little bit about Virginia Beach. This municipal center where they all worked, it has, if you've never been there, if you've never been down to Virginia Beach is an interesting city because you've got Virginia Beach, you got Norfolk, you got Hampton Roads, you got Suffolk, you got all these areas down by the water. You got Norfolk Naval Station, you got a heavy military presence, kind of like a melting pot, but it's a vacation resort also. I went to Norfolk State, so I know a little bit about the area, not a whole lot. Y'all holler at me, Trojans. But at the end of the day, if you know anything about Virginia Beach, there's one thing that you will never forget. If you walk into the municipal center, in the middle of the floor, there is a statue. And that statue was erected in 1905, and that's the Princess Anne County Confederate Heroes. It is a tribute to the Southern troops who fought to preserve slavery during the American Civil War. And it's a reminder of this state's history. Now, y'all remember what happened in Virginia back in 2017 when they tried to remove a Confederate statue of General Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville, and that's what triggered all that deadly neo-Nazi violence that happened where the girl got ran over by the car. Y'all remember all of that. So remember, Richmond was going to be the capital of the Confederacy. In Virginia, if no other state doesn't have racism down in its DNA, remember the first slaves, 1619, right there in Jamestown, in Virginia. Y'all remember not too long ago, Virginia's governor, Ralph Northam, he came to see the people, after the shooting. But think about what he was just wrapped in not too long ago. Ain't this the same bro that just got caught with the pictures of him in blackface from the year 1984? He's still in power. There's some people that I talk to down there that are of the African-American persuasion. And I asked them, I say, look, bro, you down there right now. I ain't been there in a while. What's the temperature? Has it really improved that much? Because I ain't heard a whole lot come out of Virginia Beach until this right here happened. I'm going to let the brother's name stay, off the books because he don't want it to be known. But here's what he said. He said he lived 2 minutes away from that municipal center. And he says that gunman had racial motivation, and he believes that the statue is telling. He said that the Confederate influence and the lack of diversity are obvious, and it seems equivalent to the culture of a combative environment. He says that city has backed Republicans for president for the past half century. He said Virginia Beach is racially segregated, and that there are definitely 2 white schools, and the remainder of the schools are known as diverse schools. We expect mass shootings in America, but he says he was not surprised that it happened in Virginia Beach. Now, I hear you, bruh, but just like I had to remind y'all about the Greensboro massacre, and that's why me and my boys had to pull out the heat and go to Dayton, let me give y'all another piece of history they don't like to talk about anymore. If you can get a copy of Public Enemy's Fight the Power video, in that video, there is footage of something that happened in Virginia Beach during Labor Day weekend in 1989, when chaos broke out at Greek Fest on the ocean front. And y'all don't remember Greek Fest like we remember Greek Fest. Matter of fact, after this happened, they moved Greek Fest because all the money that they brought into that area. They didn't appreciate that. It was 28 years ago. And a lot of y'all don't know this, but they said that Greek Fest was the turning point, for Virginia Beach to have to acknowledge that you're going to have black folks coming in here with money and you just can't take their money and treat them any kind of way. I'm going to go ahead and put my notes down because I'm going to give you my personal testimony. When this happened, it was the local police and the state police that got into it with all of the students that were there from all of the colleges and all of the fraternities. It was a straight out riot. It got so bad that they had to call in the Virginia Army National Guard, of which I was a member, which was predominantly black at the time. And when we showed up, we wasn't there for the students. We was there to fight the state police and the Capitol Police because they were the ones who was doing all the damage, riding through the crowd with horses. Look at the video that PE shot for Fight the Power. There's actual footage. And the next year, Greek Fest didn't come back to Virginia Beach. They lost so much money. Word got out about Virginia Beach that they racist. Nobody wanted to go there. So they had to get their act together. Oh, you know, they did this. They did the regular routine. They talked to the church leaders and the civil leaders and they promised to do better and please bring your money back to us. Greek Fest never came back. But Virginia Beach learned. And they did put some things in place to try to, you know, they retrained the police, you know, and Bike Fest. Down in Myrtle Beach, they took a ticket from them and they said, see what happened up there? We don't want that to happen down here. You go there, when we went down to Bike Fest, they were just like, hey, it's cool. You know, as long as y'all spending money and y'all ain't burning nothing down, y'all good. But Virginia Beach became notoriously known as a racist hotspot. So I wasn't surprised when I heard what happened. But what I'm pointing out is the media did a great job at not letting us know right off the bat that it was a black man that went up in there and killed all those people. You understand what I'm saying? Why would y'all leave that out? Well, let me tell you why they would leave that out. The same reason when they talk about the Central Park Five that everybody's talking about right now. And if you listen to the media, pay attention to their verbiage. They were quick to tell you that it was African-American young men and a Latino, but they always say it was a jogger. They leave out white woman. Notice that. Why? Because everybody involved in it was wrong and it was blatant racism. As a matter of fact, if you've been keeping up with the story, the young lady who was the prosecutor, she catching it now. She having to step down from position. She done lost her publishing deal. But listen to the media. Listen how they phrase certain things to keep you distracted or not. They don't want to get you fired up. Oh, bruh's going up in there not having it no more. Oh, that's the word we need to see. I say that to say this. If you remember what we did in Dayton, if you watch the media coverage, they never showed you all pictures of black men with automatic weapons, semi-automatic weapons, organized, walking around. There were no problems because of who showed up, not who didn't show up. And I looked for that because think about it. Images of black men arming themselves legally to confront bigotry, hatred, racism, not just singing songs and waving signs, but loading clips and letting it fly. They don't want y'all to see that. Remember, that's the image the Black Panthers put out. The moment that we start putting images like that on TV, you see how y'all all starting to get frustrated now? How many videos y'all done seen today? The one where the little baby, the cop walks up, smack the dude. That's in Columbus. The baby on the ground. There's so much stuff going on right now. The last thing they want to do is for the media to start putting up images of organized black men taking up arms. So you know damn well they weren't going to tell y'all that it was a bruh. For whatever his crazy reason was, to say, you know what, I'm done. Here's my resignation. And apparently the resignation wasn't enough. He was like, you know what? Now, my condolences to all of those families of the people that lost their lives. But I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Sometimes there are going to be casualties of war. There are always casualties of war. And sometimes there's collateral damage. And I'm going to let y'all know right now, if you haven't figured out that we at war, just take all the videotapes you keep seeing and put them all together. And then go look at some of the video from apartheid in South Africa. Go look at some of the ethnic cleansing that's happened in look at what's happening in the Sudan. Look at the slave trade that's going on in Libya right now. Look at what's happening in the world and then compare that against what you see in the United States. I got African brothers that says, I'm surprised y'all ain't flipped out and went off and burned that joint down already. So I see y'all bubbling. I see you bubbling, but you still ain't crossed that line yet. As long as the media controls the narrative, they're not going to have a problem. So I'm going to tell you myself. And while I'm on that topic, real quick, I know y'all heard the story about the brother up in Maryland who went down because he had a DWI warrant. He just went and turned himself in. This brother was airborne trooper. You know what I'm saying? Good dude. Went to turn himself in. Next thing you know, they calling his people saying he dead. He died. But when they got the body back, missing a few pieces. Brain gone, throat gone, heart gone. Now, there's two reasons why that could happen. And they're probably the same. One, they killed him. They don't want you to see his throat because he died of asphyxiation. They took his brain. And of course, they took his heart. Now, a lot of people don't realize that there are people running around all over this country snatching people left and right. For what? Their body parts. There's a serial killer loose right now in Chicago that's killing young women, cutting their fingers off, taking all their organs. But they trying to say that we do that. I ain't never known a bro do no stuff like that. That's not our style. But what I did do, I went and did my research because I'm like, well, damn, am I in the wrong business? How much does this stuff go for? So I'm going to give y'all some information that might make you watch your kids a little closer. By the way, did you see the video of the Chinese man that tried to snatch the black boy out the Walmart? He at gunpoint said, you coming with me? And everybody looking. Yeah, he didn't get far, but he had him at gunpoint. They just trying to snatch him. But let me tell you how much money is behind this. I'm not going to talk about how much the body parts cost. That's just the first piece. This is not only to get it, but to get it put in you. These are the average amount billed for transplants in the United States. 1.4 million for a heart. 862,000 for your lungs. $813,000 for your liver. $893,000 for bone marrow. $30,000 for the cornea in your eye. $1.1 million for your whole intestine. $415,000 for a kidney. $347,000 for your pancreas. After I read all of that, I was like, that's crazy. But then I thought about it. You know how many people there are on waiting lists? And especially liver and kidney, you got 20 people that die a day because no one shows up. So can you imagine if you had that kind of money? And you say, y'all just go find me somebody. Hey, well, the price is right there. Shopping list. I'm not donating nothing. I am not an organ donor. And if I turn up with my stuff missing, they stole it. That brings me to my last topic I want to talk about tonight, my people. I said this before, and I keep saying this to you all. And when you see it, you have to call it out for what it is. And you are absolutely right. That Chinese man was ready to sell their kids' body parts. That's what they do. Matter of fact, most people don't know this. In China, they body harvest legally. You can be sentenced to that in their prisons. And you're going to do 5 years or we're going to take all your shit. You're done. It's a wrap. I keep telling y'all this. Everybody in my skin is not my kin. And everybody that looks like you is not your friend. So I'm going to touch on something that's going to kind of rub a few people the wrong way. But I don't care. Factz Ova Feelings. So we all saw this video of Inexin Amsram, who is the principal at Emmett J. Conrad High School class of 2019 graduation in Dallas. And the young lady got up there, her name is Ruha Hagar. She's from Iran. She was up there, and all of a sudden she was starting to talk about, all of the people who have died at the hands of the police. And she starts to go down the list. You know what I'm saying? And he cut her off. You saw him in the back like, yo, cut that off. Then he got up and tried to play it off like he ain't had nothing to do with it. And a lot of people's like, y'all calling him a coon and y'all saying, he's sold out. But I got news for you. Number one, stop thinking that everybody who's brown is part of us. Stop thinking everybody who has brown skin is a fellow descendant of the black struggle. That's the same way that, pardon my language, you stupid motherfuckers lifted up a European as a black man. Remember the guy who y'all said, oh, he's a rapper and he's all of this. Then we found out that he was from, what was he from? Europe? You ain't heard him from bro since. Cause he got exposed. You came over here and blended in and tried to act like you was part of the black struggle. And you're not. You was trying to be all gangster and throw it up. And then we found out you was living a cartoon life. You came from a good life overseas. So I went and did my research on this guy. Cause first of all, his name jumped right out at me. I looked at this cat and I said, with a name like Asmaram, that ain't no slave given name. So let me talk a little bit about this. And I'm going to say this because I know a lot of people know, what about Nipsey? Because this is where we're about to go. What about Nipsey? Nipsey kept it 100. He never denied who he was. Never denied who his people was. Never denied where he was from. And you keep seeing this come up. Eritrea is a northeastern African country on the Red Sea coast. It shares its borders with Ethiopia, the Sudan, and Djibouti. That's the capital city of Asmara, is known for its Italian colonial buildings. It used to be under British rule. It's in northeastern Africa, where they have invaded and assimilated their way into, our culture. So they look just like us. So you mean to tell me you come to my country, you get a job as a high school principal, but you have the nerve to hate on native blacks here because as far as you concerned, you ain't a part of that. This is a prime example of how Europeans infiltrated African nations to support the slave trade. You ever heard somebody look at you and say, well, y'all sold your own people? You don't know your history. Let me teach real quick. In actuality, they kidnapped, stole people from Africa, took them to Europe, impregnated them, produced mulattoes, raised them, socialized them into their culture, and then sent them back into the countries in Africa. So that when it came time for the Portuguese slave trade to expand into countries in Africa, instead of having to go in and war and snatch them, it looked like people who were embedded in those kingdoms were selling out their own people. They looked like us, but they were not us. This man, Amazgan Amsmaram, and I already hit him up on his IG. He gonna end up shutting that down because everybody coming at him right now. He's not a brother. He's not a brother. The ironic thing is the young lady who was talking, she's Iranian. Who we about to go to war with? We ain't going to war with nobody. Who they about to go to war with? Yeah, she's over here, and even she is sensitized to the plight of African Americans in this country. But he's not. So stop thinking every time you run into one of these people who say, oh, I'm from Africa, that they got love for you. A lot of Africans hate us for a multitude of reasons. Then they come over here and they look down on you and they act like it's a problem. When they seem to forget, you know what, at the end of the day, maybe I'm a descendant of the tribe that you sold out. The same way if you go down to the Caribbean, you got blacks down there that act like they better than the blacks in America when we all came from the same slave trade pipeline and a lot of blacks were already here. Y'all don't believe me? Go and find yourself some original pictures of Native Americans. You will find out they were darker than me. You see, these Europeans have a way of infiltrating your race, and they mate with your race, and they crossbreed with your race, and they lighten your race. You ain't got to believe me. I keep telling you, go do your own research. Again, like I said before, everybody in my skin is not my kin, and y'all shouldn't be too upset because this man, I hate to say it, he's not one of us at all. Listen, man, you're not being disrespectful when you say these words right here. Where you from? And they'll always, oh, I'm from Atlanta. Where are you originally from? I do that all the time, especially with white folks. See, I don't separate white folks by country names because there's no genetic race called Germans. There's no genetic race called English. There are Caucasian Caucasoids who are Neanderthal hybrid human beings who have been sworn to be the bitter enemy of Negroid original human. Remember what they just said the other day? We are celebrating. It's been this many years since they said they walked on the moon. And what was the famous words? One small step for who? Man. One giant leap for who? Mankind. Now ask yourself a question. What in the hell is mankind? I'm a man. Hue, dark, original man. Sun. Mankind is something else. But y'all don't hear me though. Folks, those are my talking points for tonight. Give you something to think about. Right now, I'm going to encourage you to grab this book right here. This is interesting. Why I'm no longer talking, you can't see this because they got it blocked out, to white people about race. Another book I need y'all to pick up is Unapologetic Apology by Letitia Robb. It's a great book. I've been in it for a minute, and I was rather surprised that when I turned to page, let me see if I can find the page that blew my mind. Was it right here? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. This page right here. I'll read it to you. It says, I don't fuck with people that fuck with people that I don't fuck with. Grandmaster Jay Johnson, Black Nation activist, former 2016 presidential candidate. The Unapologetic Apology. This book ain't nothing but the truth. Listen, folks, I thank y'all for your time. I thank y'all for hanging out with me. Spread the word. Stay out of the Dominican Republic. They're killing people. Watch what the media tells you. They're trying to control the narrative because they don't want y'all to think that we just pissed off as we are. And most importantly, watch yourself. They snatching us for body parts because it's big business. And remember, some of the people in your very neighborhood that look like you, they're not only are they not you, they are in the business to help gentrify, recolonize, and eliminate you. And on that note, y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will be back at you to teach on some deeper principles. But before I go, let me look at this comment right here. It says, the tribes all have definitive characteristics that surpasses phenotypes. That may be true, but that's a discussion for another time. What I'm talking about is the underlying methodologies and practices that have been in place that the oligarchs want to keep in place so that they stay in control and keep everybody else passive. Because if the masses were to unite, remember what I told y'all before, they're more afraid of our unity than they are of our rage. But they're still afraid of our rage. They don't want to set us off. And the way they poking the bear right now, it won't be long. Y'all know about that action. Join me. In the meantime, spread the word. I'm going to holler at y'all on the flip side. If you want to see this again, we're going to convert this to a full video. It'll be uploaded on my IGTV and YouTube. In the meantime, y'all stay safe, stay black, for real. And I'm out.